4 years back, a novel virus emerged in China, reshaping the destinies of people across the globe. Presently, the most extensive quarantine in recorded history is underway in China, witnessing hundreds succumb to the virus and thousands falling victim to its spread across continents. The contagion advanced rapidly and extensively, prompting a global shutdown within a matter of months. The actions of the CCP, in line with their usual approach, involved concealing information from Wuhan until it could no longer be contained. Subsequently, COVID-19 permeated worldwide, catching other nations off guard. The aftermath was devastating, with millions losing their lives and billions enduring the hardships of this pandemic, all triggered by a single virus. In the past 24 hours alone, over 1,000 fatalities have been documented. The sheer volume of individuals succumbing to the coronavirus is staggering. Hospitals are grappling with an unrelenting surge. The grip of this deadly pandemic seems insurmountable. And now, a parallel crisis is unfolding in China. Another virus is rapidly spreading with a concerning twist. It's predominantly affecting children this time around. Chinese hospitals are reaching capacity, with ITU beds dwindling, and communities are on the brink of another shutdown. The daily reportage is grim, with tens of thousands of new cases surfacing each day, and the crisis intensifying with every passing minute. Regrettably, the CCP's priorities appear to be centered on managing public perception rather than actively aiding its citizens. Despite a public appeal from the World Health Organization, WHO, for increased transparency, including the disclosure of patient test results related to this new virus, past experiences with COVID-19 cast doubt on China's willingness to be forthcoming this time as well. In today's video, we'll delve into the details of this new virus, examine the actions taken by the CCP, and explore the potential links to COVID-19. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the like button below. Now let's connect the dots. This latest crisis is an extension of the aftermath of COVID-19. Nearly a year ago, protests erupted in China as citizens grew weary of the CCP's stringent lockdown measures. The restrictions were extreme, confining entire neighborhoods and preventing people from leaving their buildings, even in emergency situations like fires. If you tested positive for the virus, the CCP's response was draconian. You were forcibly removed from your home and placed in a quarantine cell against your will. The measures were nothing short of surreal. Certainly, it's understandable that the populace grew weary of the stringent measures imposed by the CCP and Xi Jinping, leading to widespread protests with demands for Xi to step down. The sight of people taking to the streets and vociferously opposing the government was undoubtedly unsettling for the CCP. Notably, the gravity of the situation became evident when we consider that, prior to this, the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989 stood as one of the most significant challenges a communist government had ever faced. Under the mounting pressure, the CCP swiftly reversed its stance over a year ago, conceding to the public outcry and lifting all lockdown restrictions. However, the repercussions of that decision are now surfacing, as the recent surge in cases can be traced back to that pivotal moment. The unfolding events underline the complex interplay between public discontent, government decisions, and the ongoing challenges posed by the pandemic. Here's the breakdown. The origin of this latest chapter can be traced back to a report surfacing on ProMed, a medical website frequented by doctors and healthcare professionals to monitor global infectious diseases. It's worth noting that ProMed was instrumental in disseminating information about COVID-19 when it first emerged in 2019. Fast forward to the present, and a new report on ProMed is raising concerns, seeking additional details about emerging cases of undiagnosed pneumonia in northern China, specifically in areas like China, Beijing, and Liaoning. What's striking is the uncanny resemblance of the language used in this recent report to the one published back in 2019, which eventually revealed the existence of COVID-19. The similarities are too conspicuous to ignore, prompting questions about the potential connection between these cases and the onset of a new viral threat. Now let's dissect this concerning report. The focus of Unease is an inquiry seeking more information about cases of undiagnosed pneumonia in China, particularly in areas designated as China H. Given the global impact of COVID-19, doctors and scientists are understandably on edge when such reports surface. Taking a closer look at the contents, the report outlines a grave situation unfolding in northern China. In a nutshell, a pneumonia outbreak is gripping Beijing and Liaoning, with a troubling emphasis on children being the primary victims. Hospitals find themselves overwhelmed, and the imminent closure of schools looms due to the rapid spread of the outbreak. A noteworthy detail emerges when we consider the geographical distance between the two affected locations, Beijing and Liaoning, spanning almost 400 miles. This indicates that the outbreak isn't confined to a concentrated area, but has already extended its reach extensively. The implications are indeed worrisome. The impact of this report resonated swiftly within the medical community, prompting the World Health Organization, WHO, to intervene, seeking more comprehensive information from China regarding the specifics of these new cases. While China did share some information, its utility, as we'll soon discover, leaves much to be desired. Before delving into the shortcomings of the provided information, let's first address the on-the-ground situation. Local media, including Chinese sources, began reporting on the escalating crisis, emphasizing how hospitals were becoming overwhelmed. Disturbingly, a significant number of new patients were exhibiting symptoms of a mysterious ailment. They weren't coughing or displaying typical signs. Instead, they presented with high fevers, and many developed lung nodules. Adding to the distress, the majority of these patients were children, intensifying public anxiety. Videos circulating on Chinese social media paint a stark picture of hospital lobbies teeming with people. Emergency cases are facing substantial wait times, ranging from 2 hours to almost 2 days in certain instances. It's crucial to note that these wait times only account for emergency cases and don't include the regular influx of patients that hospitals handle on a day-to-day basis. The scenes unfolding are a testament to the severity of the situation and the strain on healthcare resources. The gravity of the situation becomes even more evident when examining social media posts on platforms like Weibo. One particularly striking post displayed a hospital screen alerting patients to a queue exceeding 700 people, with an estimated wait time of 13 hours. In another distressing video, Tianjin Children's Hospital was purportedly grappling with a staggering average of 13,000 patients daily, while Beijing's Children's Hospital reported a daunting 7,000 cases per day. Given the precedent set by COVID-19, there's a strong likelihood that these reported numbers are an underestimate, and the true scale of the crisis is likely much larger. Adding a layer of complexity to the ordeal is the unfortunate possibility that some of these children might not have initially been infected with the undiagnosed pneumonia. However, after spending extended periods in hospital waiting rooms alongside infected peers, the risk of cross-infection becomes all too real. To corroborate the authenticity of the situation depicted on Chinese social media, CNN took the initiative to contact a local hospital in China for an appointment. Shockingly, they were informed that patients who had appointments a day prior were still waiting to see a doctor, underscoring the overwhelming strain on the healthcare system. The accounts circulating on social media align with real-time experiences, painting a distressing portrait of the crisis at hand. In the course of my research, one of the most perplexing clips I encountered depicted a hospital lobby filled with young kids receiving IV drips while simultaneously attending school online. The meaning behind this footage remains elusive, leaving me with two possible interpretations. Firstly, it could signify that these kids are deemed healthy enough to engage in online learning while undergoing some form of treatment. This raises questions about the nature of the illness, whether it's manageable to the extent that children can still participate in educational activities. On the flip side, another interpretation could be more ominous. It raises the possibility that the situation is anticipated to persist for an extended period, mirroring the prolonged impact of COVID-19. In such a scenario, parents might have decided to have their children commence online schooling, acknowledging the potential longevity of the health crisis. Returning to the broader topic, these videos, showcasing such unsettling scenes, began proliferating across social media platforms to the extent that even the CCP could no longer conceal the severity of the unfolding crisis. The impact of the crisis became even more palpable when a viral clip emerged, prompting parents to question the government with a poignant query: "Are you covering up an epidemic again?" This indicates that Chinese citizens, having lived through the events of the COVID-19 era, are now more discerning and vigilant about the actions of the CCP. In response to the growing unrest, the government found itself compelled to conduct a public briefing on the situation. However, the outcome was as anticipated, especially for those familiar with the CCP's modus operandi. The ostensible goal of the briefing was to restore public confidence, yet the officials leading it appeared woefully unprepared and clueless throughout. Their explanation for the surge in cases seemed to deflect blame onto a lockdown that China had supposedly lifted almost a year ago. While, after extensive research, it appears this may indeed be a contributing factor, it's jarring to consider that the CCP would label tens of thousands of cases per day as not unusual. This revelation underscores the stark contrast between official narratives and the lived experiences of the population, raising concerns about transparency and the accuracy of information disseminated by the authorities. You've hit a crucial point. While officials may be cautious about causing panic, downplaying the severity to the extent witnessed in the public briefing seems counterproductive and raises questions about transparency. Moreover, the skepticism towards Chinese officials is warranted, particularly when they continue to withhold actual data and numbers, even after the WHO's request. The lack of transparency casts a shadow over the information being disseminated. Not knowing the extent of the spike compared to normal times and the nature of the situation only adds to public anxiety. The refusal to release lab results, despite the WHO's request, is concerning. According to WHO guidelines, governments are expected to comply within 24 hours, yet it has been over 2.5 days since the request, likely stretching to 3 to 4 days by the time this video is published. The delay in releasing crucial data and lab results raises questions about the government's commitment to transparency and cooperation with international health bodies. The public nature of the WHO's request, unusual in such cases, further underscores the gravity of the situation. It suggests that the global health community recognizes the urgency and magnitude of the issue, emphasizing the need for prompt and transparent information sharing to effectively address the crisis at hand. Your theory holds merit, especially given the substantial number of cases being reported by hospitals. The scale of the outbreak, with Tianjin's largest hospital indicating 13,000 cases and Beijing's biggest hospital reporting 7,000 cases per day, strongly suggests that this crisis didn't emerge overnight. The sheer volume of cases points to a situation that likely began weeks ago. The possibility that the WHO initially made a private request for data met with non-compliance from the CCP, leading to the subsequent public request, aligns with the urgency and gravity of the situation. Publicly announcing the request adds a layer of pressure and accountability, signaling that the global health community recognizes the severity of the issue and is actively seeking transparent cooperation to address the crisis effectively. This sequence of events highlights the challenges faced in obtaining accurate information and cooperation in such situations, especially when dealing with governments that may prioritize control over transparency. The official's explanation during the briefing about the surge in cases being linked to the end of lockdown is indeed a plausible one, especially if this is a typical respiratory infection caused by a bacteria or virus. Several factors support this line of reasoning. Firstly, the seasonal rise in respiratory infections during winter is a well-established norm. Adding to this, it's crucial to recognize that this is China's first winter post the stringent lockdowns, which implies a larger population of children who haven't been previously exposed to certain viruses and bacteria, resulting in a lack of immunity. Furthermore, the immunity of individuals who had been previously infected by these pathogens may have somewhat waned over time. When combined, these factors create a conducive environment for the rapid spread of respiratory infections, potentially explaining the surge in cases witnessed in the winter months. This rationalization aligns with established patterns of infectious diseases and offers a plausible explanation for the current situation. Absolutely. This analysis provides a reasonable perspective on the situation, aligning with patterns observed in other countries post-lockdown. The hope is that the CCP promptly releases the necessary data and lab reports, assuaging concerns and fostering transparency. Thank you for your attention. If you found this information insightful and want to stay updated on the latest developments, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below.